And welcome back to all the Bi-Conics Wrestling fans out there, and welcome back to another Beat the Clock TV review for this week's Impact Wrestling. I am your host, Mikey, and once again, I will be guiding you through everything that went down this week on Impact Wrestling. So, without further ado, let's just jump straight into everything. As mentioned last week, we are currently on the road to Emergence, which is Impact's next pay-per-view, which will be happening at the end of this month, Sunday, August 27th. Now, this is competing with AEW's All In, but we got confirmation this week via Dynamite that the pay-per-view will be in the morning and Emergence will be happening at night. So it's going to be a lot of work for those of us who watch all the pay-per-views here at the Bi-Conics, but I'm excited and I will be giving you that pay-per-view review for Emergence. But let's talk about this week's episode. So, as mentioned, a lot of the storylines that progressed tonight are continuing to build for the things that are happening at Emergence. And what a way to kick off the show than with a nice women's knockout segment where we open the show with the Impact Wrestling crowd hooting and hollering as Impact Knockouts champion Trinity makes her way to the ring. So, she says that where they currently at, which is Chicago at the time of this taping, she says that Chicago holds a special place in her heart because this is the same building where Trinity made her Impact debut earlier this year. Trinity then mentions that she's contemplated leaving professional wrestling, but coming to Impact changed all of that. So for those of you who are not aware, remember Trinity is formerly known as Naomi in WWE, and her and Sasha Banks, who now goes by Mercedes Moné in New Japan Wrestling, both of them walked out of WWE because the tag team division, they were tag team champions at the time, and they were not being treated right, so they walked out. And so just everything that happened afterwards, Trinity says that she thought about leaving professional wrestling, but coming to Impact changed all that. Trinity then tells the fans that on the very same night, she promised that she would become Knockouts World Champion. And here we are just a few months later, and she has fulfilled that goal. Trinity then mentions that, again, she thought about leaving professional wrestling, but everything got changed. And then all of a sudden, Deonna comes out to interrupt and says that she knows what it's like to become champion on her first opportunity. But unlike Trinity, she's not a quitter. Trinity then fires back and reminds Purrazzo that she tapped out in their match at Slammiversary. Purrazzo then says that she will get her rematch at Emergence and that nobody can beat her twice. Then all of a sudden the Coven come out and it becomes clear that Taylor Wilde and Kylan King don't like Trinity's rapid rise to the top and that the fight is on when the Coven jumps Trinity. Purrazzo then jumps into the fray as they fight alongside her Emergence opponent. Security comes down to the ring until Santina Marella, your director of authority, comes out and makes a tag team match later tonight. But Purrazzo doesn't want to wait until it happens, so the match happens when we come back from commercial break. Overall, I thought this was a good opening segment. We're continuing to build what is supposedly our main event for Emergence, which is going to see Trinity and Deonna for the Knockouts Championship at Emergence. But when we come back for commercial, we get a tag team match between the Coven and Trinity and Deonna. Overall, I thought this was a fun match. Once again, it's nice to see that this week, given the fact that WWE and AEW have been doing a disservice to their women's division, it's nice to see Impact continuing to showcase their women's division. And I thought this was a fun match. Obviously, the Coven are coming into more of their own as a tag team, so Taylor Wilde and Kylan King have some amazing tag team moves as they go back and forth. Trinity and Deonna also have their own, but you can tell that they're more of a singles wrestler, kind of thrown together as a tag team. But the finishing sequence, we see Kylan King in the ring as she's trying to pin Deonna. Taylor Wilde gets involved and Trinity tries to do a spinning roundhouse kick, but Taylor gets out of the way and Trinity accidentally kicks Deonna in the face, and the Coven throw Trinity out of the ring to allow Kylan King to pick up the victory by pinning Deonna. 1, 2, 3. The winner of this match is the Coven. I think this was a good way to continue to build this match. So Deanna is slowly starting to become more heelish. You could tell from her promo before commercial that she's starting to slowly come back to the virtuoso heel character, and Trinity accidentally kicking her in the face is definitely going to continue to build up this feud. Next up, we see a backstage segment where Impact Wrestling president Scott D'Amore is with the Rascals, which is Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz, and he warns them that if they get involved in any of the other number one contenders tag team championship tournament matches, they will be indefinitely suspended without pay. So we get a little graphic that shows us that there's going to, the next coming weeks of Impact, there's going to be a tournament, and the winners of said tag team tournament will get a shot at Subculture's Impact Tag Team Championships at Emergence. So this is going to be exciting. Our next match of the evening sees Heath taking on Alan Angels in a singles match. I'm going to be honest, because I thought that we were continuing to build Alan Angels, I was kind of surprised that Heath got the victory. Obviously, Heath pulls up the wake-up call on Alan Angels to pick up the victory here. I don't know exactly what we're doing with Alan. I was kind of surprised he lost this match, but I'm hoping that we're going to give him some wins eventually. And who knows, maybe him and Heath will have a program going into this, and I'm not upset about it. I think both men are great, but I do hope to see that Impact does, now that Alan Angels has kind of separated himself from the design. I do hope we see him getting more championship opportunities, and I hope to see him start picking up some wins here. Next, we head backstage where, after being attacked by his former allies in the design last week, Eric Young promises to reveal what truly happened after Diener tried to kill him last year. And probably, Impact has a really interesting habit of like people dying, getting shot, getting shanked, like going to the undead realm. Impact has some cheesy ways of how they write off wrestlers, but I love it and it's great. But we will find out what happens later tonight. Next, we see a squash match where returning Jake Something, who returned at Slammiversary. Hi, Jake. How we doing? But I love Jake Something. I think he's an incredible talent, and it's nice to see him back in Impact. But this is a squash match where he has no trouble beating Davey Vega in a singles match. So we're slowly building to Jake Something back up with some wins. Now he's back with the company. Once again, like I said, I'm happy to see him here. And I'm hoping to see him eventually have some cool feuds down the line. Once again, we also have another backstage segment. This time we see X Division champion Lio Rush joining forces with Bully Ray Bruce and Brian Myers last week, and he tells them that his place in their alliance won't last long. So Lio Rush is continuing to play the will he, won't he kind of card, and whether or not he's going to stay with Bully, Brian, and Moose, or he's going to do his own thing, because notoriously, Lio Rush is out for himself most of the time, so it's interesting to see. And I did not mention this last week, but it was after the review that I find out that Lio Rush is hurt, so he is out. He's injured, and he can't wrestle for the next couple weeks, but it seems that the prognosis may put him back into being able to wrestle at Emergence, but only time will tell, and I hope he's great. Next, we get a championship match on television. Gee, that's kind of crazy that we're getting championship matches for free on television. Take notes, other promotions. But we see a triple threat for the Digital Media Championship between new champion, who won the title at Slammiversary, Kenny King, taking on former champion of the Digital Media Championship, Joel Hendry, and newcomer challenger in this triple threat, Yuya Uemura. This whole entire segment is corny. Like, the Digital Media Championship is so funny. Joe Hendry, razzing on Kenny King leading into their match at Slammiversary, and Yuya Uemura just like being the comedic character. All of it works perfectly, and I thought this was a really fun match. Honestly, it's really, really cool. The finishing sequence was awesome. Joe Hendry and Kenny King were on the floor. Yuya Uemura goes for the top, and he ends up trying to frog splash Joe Hendry, but Joe Hendry hits a cutter out of nowhere. But Kenny King's pupil pulls him out of the ring which allows Kenny King to pin Yuya Uemura and who tried to retain the title, but surprisingly, Yuya kicks out. At this point, Joe Hendry is still on the floor, so Kenny King picks Yuya Uemura, and he is going for a kind of finisher move, but Yuya tries his best to continue to fight back, and ultimately Yuya goes to the ropes but knocks down Joe Hendry as he's trying to get back up. Kenny King picks up Yuya Uemura and hits him with a chokeslam, getting the 1-2-3, and still your digital media champion is Kenny King. This was a fun match. It was a nice, quick 7 to 8 minute match. I do hope this feud between these three keeps going because I am fully entertained. And I like seeing Kenny King hold some gold after, everything that has happened. With him being in a faction and then most of that faction going to Ring of Honor or AEW. And then Eddie Edwards kind of doing his own thing. So Honor No More disbanded. And it's nice to see that Kenny King is finally getting a push. And he's enjoyable as a heel champion, and it's great. We get a backstage segment where Gia Miller interviews Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham ahead of our main event match for the night as they take on the Rascals in the tag team tournament. Honestly, this match was so fun and so good. Jonathan Gresham and Mike Bailey take on the Rascals. Man, this match was a lot of fun. Of course, it's what you expect from tag team wrestling. Mike Bailey and Jonathan Gresham have some moves in, but of course, the Rascals' heel tactics are coming into play. Ultimately, Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel pick up the victory, so the Rascals advance into the tag tournament, and they will face off the winners between Sami Callihan and Rich Swann versus ABC in the finals to determine who is going to go to Emergence to face Subculture for the tag team championships. Ultimately, I could break down the match, but I definitely recommend you guys go watch this tag team match. It was hella fun. It was so good, and I love it so much. Finally, our main event segment after this match to end the episode of Impact, we cut to exclusive footage of what happened between Eric Young and Diener last year when Eric Young supposedly died and got stabbed by Diener. So we see Diener stab Eric Young and then place the knife on the table. Eric Young's body is shown and then he coughs up blood and laughs. He crawls outside to his motorcycle. He puts his helmet on, face and fists still bloody, before riding off into the night. We then hear a voiceover from Eric Young questioning if death is final and why we're scared to live. Death can be beautiful, but he's not dead yet. He's more than life. He's an idea and he will live forever. And Diener has something coming for him as Eric Young rides off in the sunset as we close on this episode of Impact. Overall, I thought this episode of Impact was really entertaining. We got some fun matches and everything is still building towards Emergence. I will say that I'm happy that we're taking our time with the storylines, but my only critique is, and this is more of a future thing, the overall episode, I give a solid 7.5 out of 10. Well, actually, maybe an 8. I just think Impact is always entertaining every week, and their men's and women's division is fun. All the storylines range from something serious to something funny, but they always seem to rotate characters in, which I appreciate. My only critique is, and this is not necessarily for this episode, but it's for down the line for Impact. So Impact always ends up finding themselves occasionally, once or twice a year, where we have a pay-per-view and then literally the next month, we have less than 2 weeks to build to a pay-per-view. And that's what's going to happen. So we get Emergence Sunday, August 27th, and then literally not even 2 weeks later, we get another Impact pay-per-view on September 8th, which is Victory Road, which then leads into a couple of weeks of shows before Bound for Glory in October. So I'm afraid that Victory Road will suffer because after Emergence, Impact only has 2 weeks to build towards Victory Road. So we'll see what kind of cards we get for that, but ultimately it's still, I think both pay-per-views are going to be fun. But that is going to be it for this week's Impact Wrestling review. Thank you so much for tuning into my short little review. As the sole representative for Impact, I will always support this promotion because they have amazing talent and they use everyone despite them being a small roster. And I still stand by the fact, especially everything that has happened this week in the women's division in WWE and AEW, that Impact Wrestling's Knockouts women's division is still by far the best booked division across all of the brands. And I will take no arguments on it. That is just pure fact. And if you disagree, you can let me know in the comments and let's chat. Let's talk about it. I love talking about wrestling with people. If you like these long-form TV reviews, make sure to check out all the other reviews we have here on the Bi-Conics Wrestling YouTube channel, where we pretty much cover everything from WWE, AEW, Impact, and Ring of Honor. We also have pay-per-view reviews, so make sure to check out our most recent one, where me and the rest of the SmackDown squad of the Professor and Minnie reviewed the Great American Bash for NXT. It was such a great pay-per-view. You should go watch the video to check it out. If you want to stay up to date on everything or when things go live, make sure to follow us on the Instagrams, the Twitters, the Threads, the TikToks at BC WrestlePod, where we always post when videos go live, as well as some clips and behind the scenes stuff of our episodes. I'm super excited because we are shortly coming into SummerSlam tomorrow, which is going to be a fun time. So make sure to check out our review on Monday when that drops. And for the first time ever, the Bi-Conics has a special guest coming in. It's another creator that we've been talking to from behind the scenes, and I'm super excited to have him for our SummerSlam review. Make sure to check out everything we got. And as always, from all of us here at the Bi-Conics, remember, take care of yourself, love one another. And as always, until the next review, adios, sayonara, and thanks for watching.